Welcome one and all. Thank you so much for hopping in. I'm sorry it's been a minute since I have streamed, but I'm here. I'm live now. So let's go. What are we talking about today? That is a great question. We're talking about, I have a whole bunch of clips and everything that I want to show you guys. I want to react to, and I want to give my two cents about it. The main gist of everything, right? To sum everything all up, is basically the media, politicians, they're not your friend. They really try to hide things. There's always an agenda going on, and I understand that kind of sounds conspiratorial, right? To say that most medias that you're gonna be watching when it comes to Hollywood, mainstream media, it's been, you're right, lag. You say it's been the case for 100 years. Yes, but I don't know about 100 years. I mean, it's been a long time for sure. The problem with today's media, and I'm going to include, when I say media, I'm going to include, well, I think that also should include any type of social media, movies, news, Hollywood. That's what I'm going to talk. That's when I say media, I mean that whole kit and caboodle. And the reason why I'm talking about this, and I know we've touched on this topic, right? We've touched on this the last short intermission stream. I talked about this a little bit, but the serpent really reared its ugly head in these past few weeks. I feel, for me personally, like, I've known media has been garbage for a long time, but when the movie The Sound of Freedom came out, okay, that is about a topic that I would presume that we can all get behind. It doesn't matter whether you're left, right, conservative, liberal, it doesn't matter what country you're from. It's a topic that I think, okay, yeah, we can all rally behind and we can all get behind, to like, yeah, human trafficking is an evil thing. Child sex trafficking is a very evil thing, and we all agree on that, right? And in my opinion, any type of movie, let's just say, hypothetically, let's just say The Sound of Freedom. Let's just say that it's not, but let's just say it wasn't based on anything true, right? Let's just say it wasn't based on anything true, but it talked about a serious issue that's going on in the world. That would be, in my opinion, a net positive for the world, for people to go out and see this movie. But it talks about, but what the movie shows is all true, right? It talks about true live things that actually happened and that are happening today, right? And the media just hammered and hated on that movie, and I'm like, I was just dumbfounded that they hated it so much. I couldn't, it was so difficult for me to it's still today so difficult for me to understand that. It's so hard for me to understand that people are so against the movie. And I don't understand how somebody could be so against a movie that, at the very least, I feel it does much more than this, but at the very least, it makes people aware that, hey, there's child sex trafficking going on in the world and it's a serious problem. You know? Like, I'm so confused by that. That somebody would be so, that there is, the media and just individuals would be so against that. And I don't understand that. It just really doesn't make any sense to me. Have you seen the clip of all the news presenters played over each other saying the exact same line? Yes, I have. I played that on the last short intermission. The very first thing, I play that, and that's what we're going to talk about again. I know, that's why I'm saying I talked about the subject the last short intermission podcast, but I'm going to be diving into it a little bit more. And the reason why is because I want to really, because every single news media outlet, I mean, not every single one, there's obviously good ones that were praising the movie and that were very open about, you know, being about saying, hey, child sex trafficking is a huge, serious problem, and this is a great movie and everything. But I'm just talking about like mainstream. Most, if not all, were like very against it. I think the only mainstream news media outlet that I saw that actually promoted it and talked about it in a good light was Fox News. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of Fox News, but that was the only one that I saw. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird, you know? And they didn't go on and on and on and on about it, but I mean, they at least said something nice about it. And they actually had the main guy who runs Operation Underground Railroad, Tim Ballard, on and talked about the movie and talked about Operation Underground Railroad. Hence the reason why I'm wearing a little bit of merch from his store. And I'm also wearing the shirt from the movie, God's Children Are Not For Sale. I'm representing that. Lag, I'll never understand how they're against it. I never will too. I don't understand. But I'm going to show you some stuff that there's so much more stuff that I want to show, but I'm hoping that everything that I'm showing is going to be clear and concise, because there's a lot of clips and my brain is weird. My brain jumps around a lot, and that's kind of just how I ingest, media or facts and and news. I just kind of jump around, and I don't want to confuse you guys, and I hope that this is concise and clear. I started later because I was trying to put all the clips I wanted to in a specific order to help it flow better, so I hope it works out. But you're right. I don't understand how. I agree with you. Like, I don't understand how anybody could be against the movie. Crapping on it for the exact same reason it should be praised. Exactly. Right? Exactly. And see, the thing about the movie is that the events that are portrayed in the movie are true. It happened. Those things happened. It is a mixture of a great thriller movie, documentary, and true story all wrapped up in one. It's perfect. In my opinion, it is the best, most important, and honestly the most perfect movie that I have seen this year. It's so freaking good. And I'm sorry, but it really gets my blood boiling when people crap on this movie. I don't understand, mainstream media. I mean, these people, I would presume on mainstream media, have children, have families, and they don't care about letting people know about this. They don't want people to see this movie. I don't understand that. So I want to jump into some videos here. Okay, so here we go.
Conspiratorial thinking that has led many Americans to raise awareness about child sex trafficking epidemic that simply does not exist. Tell us first of all about the conspiracy that's being pushed here.
It's become sort of a popular piece of folklore now that there is this epidemic of child sex trafficking.
To say that it's not happening after everything that we went through, of course, with Epstein and that little black book that we still have yet to see the names in, and all of his connections to, the greater elite world in this country and in many other countries, to deny that just kind of blows my mind. And when you think about the fact that in a bipartisan sense, we can all acknowledge that child predators exist and they exist in large scale, why would you not think an industry of human trafficking would also coincide with that? It just does not make sense to me how anybody could, with a straight face, say that none of this is real and this is all conspiratorial and made up.
That was on Morning Joe. And they're saying, oh, it's folklore, conspiratorial. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, right. So this is Tim Ballard, and he's on this other podcast. This podcast is with Allie Beth Stuckey. It's the Sound of Fear, a QAnon conspiracy theory. Let's watch what he has to say.
spot at the U.S. box office on July 4th, beating out Disney's recently released and highly anticipated Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. As it was being reported, the new film scored $14.2 million at the box office versus Indiana Jones $11.7 million. I mean, that is pretty darn incredible, especially for a movie that people may describe as not exactly being mainstream, because it's not this big Hollywood production, even though it's very well made. It's something that, really a contingency of Americans supported and wanted to see. And wow, it's been insanely successful.
It has. In fact, the recent numbers through this weekend, we're now at $40 million in box office ticket sales. And what's interesting, Ali, is Disney actually owned this movie for a while. Fox made it. Disney bought Fox, and Disney was going to shelve it. I mean, we were freaking out. They're like, we don't have any interest in putting this out. I mean, this movie's been done since 2020. It was supposed to come out in 2020. So the producers wrestled it away from Disney, got it back, and then finally we connected with Angel Studios, and now we have this strange, almost poetic justice. Now here's Disney had the film, and the film's beating their own, their Indiana Jones, and not by a little bit in the theaters where we're competing. So it's kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, it is really interesting, and it just goes to show that.
Okay, so it's blowing out the box office, and this is the thing. I think it's wonderful that it's doing it. It's doing so well. It was a movie that was made with $14 million, and at the time of this recording, it had grossed $40 million, and I think it's over $100 million now, right? And it shows that despite mainstream media just crapping on this movie, there's a huge populace who love this movie, who are just good. I would just say people who just want who want a movie that's based on a true story, that speaks of something real, that gives a message of warning, but also a message of hope. And it gives me hope that, man, there are actually a lot of people out there who actually have a good head on their shoulders, right? And that they're going to put the money where they're going to put their money where their mouth is, too. They're going to support things that they find as a worthy cause.
I mean, the mainstream media has demonized it so much, has basically gaslit the American people into thinking sex trafficking is not a thing. It's not a big deal. It's just a conspiracy theory. Don't go see this, or else you're going to be linked to extremism. And instead of listening to them, I think a lot of people said, I think I'm actually going to go check it out for myself. What do you think?
It's exactly what's going on. It's the most bizarre reaction by the left. I can't even understand this. This was never supposed to be political. These are real children, and they're having a hard time. It's hilarious, actually, because they're trying to say this movie is QAnon, adjacent and all these things, but they can never go specifically into the film and say, here's the QAnon part, because
right.
Like, where's the part where Tom Hanks and Hillary Clinton are drinking the blood of babies, or there's underground cities, or these are real kids. And my message to those people, those critics, like the CNN commentator the other night, you are not hurting me or Jim Caviezel if that's what you think you're doing. By disparaging this film, you are hurting real children who want their story told. These are true stories, and that's what you're doing to kids. You're further abusing them by pretending that their story is somehow a conspiracy theory. It's grotesque what they're doing.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is grotesque. It is absolutely grotesque what they're doing. And we're going to go into, well, he mentioned CNN, and we're going to go into that. Let's see here, right here. They're going to talk about the movie The Sound of Freedom. Here we go.
And you seem pretty familiar with him because he doesn't really hide his association with this real wild plot that involves, drinking the blood of children and things like that.
No, he doesn't hide it at all. And you have a lot of people who are in this world of QAnon who say, oh, they don't know what that is. They've never heard of it. They're just asking questions. With somebody like Jim Caviezel, he is openly embracing it. He's openly using its catchphrases and its concepts. He's speaking at QAnon conventions. And this film is being marketed to either specific QAnon believers or to people who believe all of the same tenets as QAnon, but claim they don't know what it is.
And The Sound of Freedom does focus on a real issue of sex trafficking. But that theme, it's sort of like that kernel of truth that feeds the QAnon conspiracy theory. Tell us how those two things work together.
I love it. Kernel of truth? What do you mean kernel of truth? This isn't a kernel-sized issue. This is a huge issue. I love how they, yeah, it's a real thing. There's just a little kernel of truth. Yeah, I mean, they mention it like, yeah, it's a real thing, but it's just a little kernel of truth in the movie. No, it's a freaking huge issue, and they just blow it off.
Sure, and the most durable and the most believable conspiracy theories are not entirely false. There's something in them that is true, and the rest of it is false. But the believers point to the one true thing, and they say, oh, you don't believe that this particular thing is true. In terms of child trafficking, we know trafficking is real. We know it has real victims. No one is denying that. But these films are created out of moral panics. They're created out of bogus statistics. They're created out of fear.
Oh my
and
gosh.
With something like Sound of Freedom, it specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the high-level elites, and only people like Tim Ballard and only people like Jim Caviezel, and by extension, only people like the ticket buyer can help bring these trafficking rings down. So there's a very participatory element. You're not just going to see a movie, you're just killing 2 hours on a hot day. You are helping bring down these pedophile rings and save children. Now, it's not true, but it's a very comforting and it's a very warm feeling.
You know why you have to trust this guy?
I'm sorry, that just pisses me off. So this is the thing. So, because at the end of the movie, so I don't know what the heck they're talking about, like drinking blood of children in the movie or whatever. I've watched the movie. There's none of that. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. It's a freaking amazing movie. It hits really hard. It hits hard. It's a hard-hitting movie. But last week when I was talking about this, Tommy Silva asked, okay, so what the heck can we do about this? Right? This movie, at the very end, Jim Caviezel, he has a message, and it's a good message, and he explains what you can do about it. First step is make people aware of what's going on. Donate to a good cause. Donate to Project Underground Railroad and other organizations that are going after, and helping. That are going out and fighting against these child traffickers, these pedophiles. But then you can go a step further, and you can go to Project Underground Railroad. They have on their website, they have 6 ways you could help out, and I went into more detail on what you can do there, but there's ways you can help out. And this guy's saying, basically saying, well, you guys can't help out. Nobody can help out. It's, the viewer is never going to help out. Nobody can help out. So you just might as well just not even try. Why would you tell people to not help, to not at least try to do something to save children? Why would you ever diminish the good intentions and the good will of people, to help children, to help women and children who are being sex trafficked? Why would you diminish that? Why would you, So, because when he said that, that made me think, okay, hold on a second. You're actively telling me, and CNN is promoting this lack of action, promoting people to not do anything about it. That's what I took from that. Now you might think otherwise, but that's what I took that they're poo-pooing on a call to action, they're poo-pooing on Jim Caviezel, Tim Ballard, I would say the entire Angel Studios, everybody who worked on the movie, to say, hey, this is a real problem and we need to help people out, right? We need to save. We need to at least do something, or try to do something, right? We're gonna jump to some articles here. Now this is interesting. They're going to talk about some articles from, I think, The Guardian and Rolling Stone. And these are very left-leaning news outlets here. Okay, there's a theme there. Everybody on the, people coming from the left seem to really hate this movie, huh? If they hate a movie that talks about the evils of child sex trafficking, maybe it's a group you should probably stay away from. Just throwing it out there. If the left really hates this movie, maybe you should stay away from left side of the aisle. That's just what they're screaming to me when I see that. They're not winning me over. I'm just, if you want to, but they're not hiding the fact about that. So they're going to go into some articles here and talking about the differences between the movies, the Sound of Freedom versus the movie Cuties, which is just evil. Which is just the movie Cute is just an evil movie. It's just not a good movie. A very, very inappropriate movie that uses minors in the movie to do promiscuous and inappropriate, promiscuous things. And it's and the difference in reactions. Okay, so here we go.
How different the titles are. Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms. The QAnon thing, the thriller about child trafficking, is designed to appeal the conscience of a conspiracy-addled boomer. Okay, pretty wild. Now let's go to the next one. Watch this next one here. The Guardian. Cuties review. Netflix's controversial child exploitation film is bold, flawed, and misunderstood. Misunderstood. Okay, so here's the next one. Cuties review. A coming-of-age movie caught in the culture wars. Thanks to a major marketing mistake, this award-winning French movie has been accused of sexualizing girls. It's actually a sensitive portrait of growing pains that deserve to be seen. Are you kidding me? Go to the next one. Okay, the human traffic film Sound of Freedom trashed by liberal outlets as QAnon adjacent. So when you see this, then go to the article about post-millennial that talks about, if you can pull this up, that talks about Rolling Stone editor-in-chief spiked reporting on friend getting arrested for child porn. This was a story from March of 21st of this year. If you want to go to page 24, if you can pull that up, that picture right there, that's the article right there. I'll read it to you. So Rolling Stone editor-in-chief Noah Schachtman removed references to child pornography charges from a story about ABC's producer James Gordon Meek, who was later charged with possessing child pornography. Schachtman, who was friendly with Meek, edited the piece and urged journalist Tatiana Siegel not to include the words child pornography in the story, claiming that the FBI's interest in Meek was unrelated to national security or journalism. Schachtman's decision to edit the story and remove key information about the child pornography investigation raised concerns within Rolling Stone. Siegel was reportedly not aware of the changes until the article was published and was angered by what she saw as interference. Schachtman justified his edits by stating that Siegel had not adequately verified her sources. When you read this stuff, this is what we ought to be intolerant towards.
Right, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the meme from Oren McIntyre, don't make me tap the sign, and it's just this post that says, it's not that complicated, they just want to diddle kids. And I think we all have a normalcy bias where we would like to think this is just not that common, shadowy, it doesn't really affect our lives, but this is, like you said, it's everywhere, it's very common, it's too common, and there are a lot of policies that we could actively change that would prevent this, things like closing the border, because there is a huge porous, I remember, Melania Trump, she got made fun of when she was talking about the coyotes on that recorded tape and how that was an issue. I mean, the left-wing media is like, what does she think's happening, blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't have to say anything about it, but the fact that you're even going out of your way to discredit this problem, it's very suspicious. That's all I'll say. It's very suspicious.
They're protecting their own. Like, that's how the left operates for that. And mind you, that guy's name was...
So, exactly. They're protecting their own. You see the difference, the huge difference between the two stories. So you have Rolling Stone's article praising the movie Cuties, which is just child pornography. That's just what the movie is, right? Praising that movie though, hating on the movie Sound of Freedom, and then the same, Rolling Stone's editor-in-chief, just takes out some parts of a story to protecting his friend who was caught having child pornography. Seems a little suspicious. And the interesting thing here, we have that gal there, Lauren Chen. She talks about there's policies that can happen that can help prevent this, but yet people on the left removing laws that punish child sex traffickers. Interesting. Are they sex traffickers? Child sex trafficking apologists? Interesting. So this is California Democrats go soft on child sex trafficking. Right here. Let's watch this. So this is about the policies.
California, where Dems just blocked a bill to make child trafficking a serious felony. Why would you do that? It would have punished criminals convicted of child trafficking with 25 to life in prison, but the Dems in the assembly actually blocked it. And why? They were worried it might lead to longer sentences. Isn't that the point, you idiots? You want a dumb sentence? You dumb, pedophile-supporting, child-mutilating, criminal-ass-kissing, overtaxing, morally bankrupt, drug addicts, street poopers. You are putting innocent children in danger.
They didn't want to send child sex traffickers, to prison because, it's just too long for them. No, in my opinion, I said this last week too. They should be castrated or killed. That's what should happen. That's what should happen. I guess they just want more pedophiles on the street. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me, but this is the crazy world we live in. And then you have, so this is Tim Cast. He has a podcast right here. And there's this leftist gal who, as it says down here, leftist defends graphic books and adult dating apps for children. And so this is what we're up against here, right?
Now we have this clip from the Culture War podcast where I was having a conversation with Emma Vigeland of the Majority Report co-host, and considering what we saw with this Pride event, I want to play this clip and discuss it more in depth. So I'm going to play it for you now. Here we go. You're the one arguing for.
You're the one arguing for censorship.
Yes.
I don't really mind that stuff. I mean, are you in favor of children seeing violence on television?
No.
That scares me a little bit more.
It depends. It's not so simple to say violence, right? But yes, censorship is a good thing, but when done bad is a bad thing.
Yeah.
For instance, Ian Crossland, who is a co-host on Timcast IRL, used to be a moderator for Minds.com, and he had to filter out graphic depictions of murder and rape and child abuse. Censorship is absolutely vital in that regard. So if we're talking about a book like, in particular, there was one called, there's a teacher who provided a book to her middle schoolers called This Book is Gay. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I have heard. That's actually a very good book.
And it provides instruction on she provided instruction to children on how to use adult gay anonymous sex apps. Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate. Now look, by all means, you can be in favor of them.
Maybe she had a child. Maybe she had a child in her classroom who
wanted to go on Grindr and have sex with adults. Is that your argument?
No, I mean I'm not saying that. First of all, I don't know. Again, this is
why would a 10-year-old need Grindr?
This is the thing that you do though, Tim.
Oh, that
You're
I do.
picking specific examples that
You
are
asked me
inflammatory.
You asked me for one.
Okay, then go ahead. I
did. We have the book.
Yeah, I'm.
I said don't show children blowjobs.
Look,
You said you appreciate it.
I'm not in favor of censorship.
This Book is Gay is a book that teaches the individual reading it how to use adult sex apps. And holy crap, there are things described in that book that, look, you know, I can't even describe.
I'm buying it.
I can't even, bro.
We gotta have it on the table.
Oh, you're buying the book. Yeah. Right. I don't disagree with that. I don't like giving these people money, but I think it's important to know and for people to read this stuff. But the book describes things that go well beyond sex and kink into what I would describe as dangerous behavior that can result in serious... look, when they talk about consuming feces, and it goes beyond that. Wow. I'm like, you're talking about things that can cause serious harm to a person, let alone a child. When she says it's a great book and defends the idea that children would get it, I have to wonder. I almost don't have to wonder. It's a question of, do we really think these people just don't know what they're talking about? Or does she actually, does Emma actually want children to have sex with adults?
Emma had one thing on her.
So, look, if adults want to read that stuff, that's, hey, that is their prerogative. But you do not give that to children. You don't give that stuff to children. That's not appropriate for children. I don't understand why that's so... That to me doesn't seem controversial. You start this weird indoctrinating children into thinking that, into thinking that, yay, hey, kids, it's okay to explore your sexuality. You're children. You should go off and do that stuff. Like, what? No, it's not okay to do that. That's not appropriate. And to give children books and to teach that stuff is not okay. I don't think it's, to be perfectly honest, I don't think that books like that are even appropriate for adults. But look, adults can do what they want. I don't think it's appropriate, but they do what they want. And that's just the type of stuff that they're pushing here. And now this is a clip from Tim Ballard. He's talking about how, well, I'll let him explain it, but he talks about, he has to kind of read the manifesto of these child sex traffickers. And he's looking at how, wow, this is like, I'm reading the same thing of what the doctrine of this whole transgender ideology is too. And it's like the same thing. And it's like, wait, hold on. That's a little scary here. So here, I'm going to have him in his own words here.
Just yesterday, 2 of the guys were convicted in Ecuador because it led us to Ecuador, a child sex hotel, these pedophiles from Holland and set up. But we'll get into that another time, okay? But the point I'm making is I had to study their literature. This was a political platform. This was a political party. And what I started recognizing is I named them I call it the pedophile network doctrines. Okay, it's they include things like separate children from parents because parents are bad influence. The state knows best. Sexualize kids, let them see pornography. 2, 3, take God out of education because that just gets in the way. And kids consent. Children can consent to anything. At 12 years old, they should be able to vote. They should be able to do anything. Now, what am I saying here? My stomach is getting sick as I'm reading this. I read this every day. It's the woke left agenda. I'm not saying that they're colluding or talking. It doesn't matter. It's the same dark source. But they are pedophiles are sitting back right now going, we've been pushing this agenda for decades. And now we don't have to push anymore because the left is taking care of it for us in America. And this whole trans voice on children. Again, I'm libertarian. Adults, do what you want. I'll fight for your right to do whatever you want. okay, in terms of adult. I'm talking about children. And what they're saying is children can consent to having their bodies filled with a chemical that will destroy the reproductive system. They can consent to ripping apart their genitalia. Like, this is insanity.
Yeah, absolutely insanity. Insane. So he there he is. He's reading this manifesto from these child sex traffickers, and he's like, holy cow, I'm reading this. I read this crap every single day. It's the same stuff that the crazy left is pushing. So is it really a stretch to think that maybe mainstream media, Hollywood, they're all in on this stuff together, that this is what they want? They're pushing this stuff, that they want this. Is it that far of a stretch to think that they're okay with human trafficking? I don't think it's that far of a stretch, to be honest. I really don't. If you're pushing something that child sex traffickers are pushing, it's the same ideology. They just might call it different stuff. They just might call it differently, but it's the same ideology. It makes me think that Hollywood, mainstream media, they are not your friend. They do not care about you. They want to tie you down, brainwash you. It's not okay. Now, there's talking about something and letting people be, and bringing awareness to people. That's great. So, okay, great. So now we know all this. So what can you do? And PBD here, they on his podcast, they talk about that. They talk about, there's two types of people who ruining America, and then there's one type of person that we need to be in order to better America and better ourselves.
I mean, if I do in New York, I'm in New York. If I say anything, we're going to do this and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. Well, that's exactly the issue, okay? The three communities that I keep talking. I had a great conversation with Dave Smith last week. A phenomenal call together about the three communities. The lazy and scared Republicans are ruining America. The do your thing libertarians are ruining America. And the tolerant Christians are ruining America. These three communities are all generally net positives to society. They contribute to society. They don't take. But they're ruining America because they're sitting there saying, well, I don't want to kind of get my name called out. I'd rather just be quiet and not say anything about it, because what if the guy's like, what if my real estate business could take a hit? I say, your country could take a hit. Your kids could take a hit. You're worried about the real estate business. But then again, it's a real valid fear that a lot of people are having nowadays. But
Okay, so I said two types of people. There's three types of people that are ruining America. And you want to know the interesting thing about all those three types of people? Those three types of people recognize what evil is going on, but all three of them aren't doing anything about it. Those three people, they are a net positive for society, just like PBD said, but they become a huge negative when they don't open their mouth and they stand for what's right. And that's what we need to be. We need to stand for what's right. We need to open our mouth. Then that's minimum, right? Minimum. Open your mouth and say, you know what? I don't really agree with that. If you're having a casual conversation with somebody, and somebody's, talking about something that you don't necessarily agree with, you say, you know what? Respect your viewpoint and everything. I don't necessarily agree with that. Well, entirely. I have a different viewpoint, and then you need to probe. Then you share your viewpoint. They shared their viewpoint. Now you share yours. And if they don't agree with you, and if they call you lazy and bad, or who knows what they're gonna call you, fascist, racist, whatever. Okay, well, I mean, you said your piece, and that's that, and that's what's gonna happen sometimes. But you can put your shoulders back and walk high and with your head up, knowing that you stood for what you believed in, and that's super, super important. So
we have to almost have some of those tough conversations, do something with it, try to figure out a way to persuade. Then if we don't succeed, then we got to take a different route. But I do think we have to talk to the opposition side instead of just people that agree with us. You can be a very good person that can find your own audience. There's two types of people. There's those who are going to go give such a great message, bashing the other side so much that the people that agree with this person show up, but they don't convert. Then there's another person that's going to say, let me tell you my way of how I see this here, and this is how I evolved into thinking this way. And then the other people say, that guy just converted me into thinking like that. So this guy finds a community, this guy goes and converts people. We need more converters in America. That's what's lacking. There are too many cowards that are running away just to talk to people that agree with them and it's safe. We need more fighters. That's the challenge that we're having right now. So when that guy's saying what he's saying, I don't blame him for feeling that way. Maybe he's got to take a couple communication courses.
So there you go. We need more converters. We need more people, like PBD said. We need more people who are going to stand up and express what they believe. And this is the thing. I don't think that you should be scared to express something that you believe and then fail. I don't think you should be scared if you fail. Failure is not a bad thing. And in fact, it's only failure if you just quit and you never do it again. Right? When you quit, then you failed. Right? But if you talked and you try to express what you believe and you got maybe tongue-tied and you didn't have your facts straight maybe, but you just believe, you weren't able to express yourself clearly, but maybe you messed up that and you lost that battle. You didn't fail. You go back to the drawing board and you start thinking like, okay, how can I better express myself and how can I better explain this? And maybe I should memorize a few things or at least memorize a few sources just so I can give the information. You know, people ask, well, where did you get that source? So, well, I watched it on some YouTube video. Oh, no. You know, guide them, direct them, you know, and you improve and you grow. You know, you're never a failure if you lose a battle, if you get knocked down. You're only a failure if you stay down and you quit. That's the only way you're a failure, right? So, you know, like PBD said, let's be converters here, you know? Hanson, we need more people like Bono. Hey, that means a lot. I appreciate that. We need more people like you. We need more people like you guys. We really do. You guys are, see, this is the thing. This is one of the things I really want you guys to really feel and believe that you, like, I love hanging out with you guys. I love talking with you guys, and I don't hang out and just talk with anybody. And I don't invite to, you know, we play Apex together. I'm not inviting anybody or, you know, just anybody to play games and everything with, because I like surrounding my people with nice people. And we might differ in opinion on certain things. That's totally okay. I'm totally okay with that. You guys are respectful. You guys are kind. You guys are patient. You know, I mean, I don't know anything other than just chatting with you guys. But I believe you guys are hardworking people and that you guys are those type of people who are like, you know what? I'll open my voice. I'll open my mouth and I'll be bold but not overbearing. But I'll stand for what's right, you know? And I think that's super important. Going into, this is super, super important. I really want to talk about this. It still talks about the same topic, but we're kind of backtracking to when he's talking about, so this guy, he was talking about the Sound of Freedom and all the clips that we watched with CNN and Morning Joe and the Rolling Stones, the Guardian, and, you know, they're hating on the Sound of Freedom, and they're just hating on this movie and everything. What people are doing on both sides as they're taking the subject of child sex trafficking and they're politicizing it. He's like, it isn't something that needs to be politicized. It is an issue that affects all of us equally. right? And I'm going to play this. And what he says is super, super important. We're going to listen to this. So it's something to be mindful of when we are in conversations with people and when we're going about our daily life. This is what he says right here is super, super important. Okay, playing it.
The same, and so on. But as both sides continue to react to each other, they become more and more hostile to one another until they both eventually blame the other side for all of the major problems in the world, and being so convinced that the other side is the source of all evil, they think that anything that the other side says couldn't possibly be true. And this always ends with both sides denying that the issues that the other side brings up are serious issues or even issues at all. Now, as child trafficking is becoming more and more politicized, my fear is that something similar is starting to happen when it comes to trafficking. As politics takes a hold of this topic, this evil practice of trafficking, something that all of us should be behind stopping, no matter what our political views are, will be something that becomes more and more about political opposition and less about protecting children and victims. The conversations will continue to be dominated by reactionary attempts to show just how horrible the other side is, and we'll all continue to fight with each other about who's worse instead of teaming up to fight against trafficking. So to return to what I said at the beginning of the video, if you were the devil, what would you rather have?
Pay attention.
Both political
Pay
parties
attention to
coming
this.
together to fight trafficking, or instead have them so fixated on blame shifting that eventually we can't help but argue with each other while the kids are being ignored in the background. Of course, if you were the devil, you'd rather have us fighting each other rather than fighting the problem of trafficking. And when this happens, the only ones who really lose in this situation are not conservatives or liberals, but instead it's the children. Now,
right there. Super, super important. As we react to each other rather than solve the problem only grows and it ends up being forgotten. Like he said, the children are the ones who become forgotten and become hurt when something like this is politicized. You all are awesome. There is hope. There are great people out there. PBD, all the podcasts, all the other podcasts that promote good living, good morals, good just values. We're growing. Joe Rogan, exactly, 100%. Yes, that he's another one, Anson. Yes, thank you. Exactly. We are not. I really don't believe that those who want to see the world in a better light, in a better place, are the minority. I really don't believe that we are the minority. I really believe we are the majority. I'm glad that in maybe a small way I can help get the word out. At least direct people to people who are way bigger than me and way smarter than I am. And to help people see the light of what's really going on. All right. Catch you all later. Y'all rock and roll it. Have a good night.